All right, Rabbi, good morning or good erev Shabbos, Schus Baruch Hashem, to be able to pick up this morning on Kuf Vav Amud Beis 106b at the Mishnah. Begin by thanking our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan. Our Talmud Torah for the month of Sivan, Stephen Terizin, with gratitude to Hashem as they welcome their fifth grandchild, Gavriel Amichai Zin, and a loving memory of Steve's mother, Doris Zin Devora Bas Rabbi Shmuel Yomi. Shani and Avram Kelman, our Talmud Torah sponsors, in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Avram's father, Fa'al Yechiel ben Avram, Zichron Livrach, we hope then in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the Neshama Slav and Aliyah, the family Zayin Nechama, little Amichai, Gabriel Amichai, Meretz Hashem will grow to be an incredible Ben Torah, source of nachas for his parents, for his family, for the Ribbon Shalom, Me'eh Ve'esim Shanim Tovos. Those with that, let us begin. Okay, we are picking up in Meretz Hashem. Today's daf is Kuf Zayin 107, and we are picking up on Kuf Vav Amud Beis at the Mishnah. So we're continuing in the topic of, we'll call it sharecropping, but of course, again, as you've mentioned before, when we use the term sharecropping, it's a little bit of a generic term for different forms of agreements. Because remember, again, we have arisos, which is our typical sharecropping, where the farmer goes ahead and farms the field and gets a percentage of the crop. And then, of course, there is chachirus, and in chachirus... Oh, that's what I'm hearing. Okay. I was hearing an echo, and I realized it's the computer. Okay, and then there's chachirus, and in chachirus, the halacha is that the farmer agrees to pay the owner just a set fee. A set fee, whatever that set fee is. The set fee could be potentially paid from the crop, but lav davka has to be paid from the crop. Okay, so we'll say, so with that, so continuing in these same discussions, these same type of agreements, we continue with the Mishnah. Really Greek Gemara today. Right? So we'll say, so good. So I go ahead, let's assume I'm the farmer in this case. I'm the farmer, Reuven is the landowner. So now the halach... It's good. Oh, Chara on Zoom, do you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Too loud? Okay. All right, excellent. So the Gemara, the Mishnah says, so thank you. So if I rent a field from Ruvain, now you're going to say, Rashi points this out that this is chachirus, not arisos. But okay, I go ahead and I'm a field from my friend to go ahead and plant barley. I shouldn't switch it to wheat. Chitim, Yisrael Serum. However, if I go ahead and I lease the field in order to go ahead and plant wheat, I can switch to barley. What's the logic of the Tanakama? So I'll say, so apparently, and it's interesting how, you would never think these things if you're not agriculturally versed. But what's interesting to note over here is apparently grain, wheat, saps more of the nutrients from the soil than barley. So therefore, if I leased the field to go ahead and plant barley, I can't switch it to wheat because that would be more of a drain on the field. But the reverse is not true. If I lease it to plant wheat, I can switch to barley because the truth is that represents less of a draw on the nutrients of the field. Now you understand, by the way, why Rashi goes ahead and sets this up as chachirus and not arisos, right? Because if it was arisos, you couldn't switch. Why couldn't I switch? Because arisos guarantees the landowner a portion of the crop. So therefore, again, if we went ahead and we stipulated that I'm planting wheat, then Reuven is entitled to a portion of wheat. In chachirus, the fee is set. So it doesn't really matter to a certain degree what it is that I'm planting because my fee is set what I have to go ahead and pay to Reuven. So again, Tanakama holds therefore, and this is the paradigm. If you agree to go ahead and plant A, you could switch to something that takes less nutrients from the soil, but not more. On the other hand, Rabbi Shmuel says, Tvua lo yizra'enu kitnis. I'm sorry, Rabbi Shmuel says you can't do this. Rabbi Shmuel essentially says that Allah l'maisa, you can't deviate. Whatever you stipulated that you're going to do with the field, that's what you need to stick to, and you cannot change. Why that is, we'll see in the Gemara. Tvua, lo yizrana kitnis. Similarly, again, if I planted wheat, you can't go. I'm sorry. If I agreed to go ahead and plant wheat in the field, I can't switch that to legumes. The kitnis yizraenu tvua. However, if we went ahead and I agreed to plant kitnis, right, I can switch it over to tevuah. And I will say same logic. So apparently, again, kitnis takes up more nutrients to the field than grain. So if I stipulated to go ahead and plant grain, I can't switch over to kitnis because that's more of a draw on the nutrients of the soil. But if I agreed to go ahead and plant kitnis, I can go ahead and switch over to grain. Rabbi Shmuel says it's also. So we'll say, so bottom line, here's the machlokes. Tanakama holds that halacha l'maisa, when you agree to plant A, you can't switch to B if B takes more nutrients from the soil. But if B takes less nutrients from the soil, then it's mutter. Rabbi Shmuel says, you can't deviate. Whatever you stipulated, whatever you agreed to, that's what you need to stick to. Fine. And we'll say, obviously, as Rashi points out, this is chachirus. It can't be arisos, because in the case of arisos, again, remember the landowner is receiving a portion of the crop, and therefore, again, the farmer can't change on him. Says the Gemara, my term Shmuel, what's Rav Shmuel's problem? So it seems to be just across the board. Shmuel says you can't change. Once you have stipulated, and once you have agreed upon what it is that's going to be planted in the field, you can't change. What's his logic? T'chsiv, Sheris Yisrael lo yasu avla, v'lo yidabru kazav, v'lo yimtza b'fiyem lashon tarmis. So we'll say it's actually very beautiful. Rabbi Shmuel comes along, quotes the Gemara from Tzifanya, and essentially says as follows: the remnant of Israel will not go out and do something inappropriate, avla v'lo yidabru chazav, nor should they speak falsehoods. Shmuel says, your word is your bond, and therefore once you give your word about what it is that you're going to do, don't change it. Don't change it. Whether it's the change is beneficial, the change is not beneficial, at the end of the day, whatever you stipulated to do, that's what you need to adhere to, and don't deviate. Incredible. So the Gemara says, okay, Meisvei. So Gemara brings the kasha. So Magvas Purim the Purim. So this is Rabbi Shmuel's shita, that whatever I agreed to do with Ruvain, that's what I should stick to, and I should not go ahead and switch up the agreement. Okay? Rabbi Shmuel sees this as a matter of integrity. So the Gemara is a kasha. Meisvei, Gemara is a kasha. Magvas Purim the Purim. But we've actually seen this halacha before. When you collect money for Purim, that money is supposed to dafka be used for Purim, meaning specifically for Matanas Lev Yonim, for Su'uda on Purim, and is not supposed to be repurposed even for another tzedakah purpose. Ve'in medaktikin bedaber. I would say now again, so we give the aniyim whatever they need, and we don't say, well, I collected $1,000, and really every ani only needs a smaller amount to provide for their Sudas Purim. Rather, whatever we collect for Purim, we give out to the aniyim for Purim. Ve'in ha'ani rashi likach ben ritzula sandalo, and an ani cannot use Purim money to purchase shoelaces, right? Literally, again, a lace for his sandal. Rather, again, the halacha is it has to be used for Purim. Ela imkein hisna b'maimad an she'iro div Rabbi Yaakov. Unless, of course, it was stipulated in front of the townspeople. In other words, that if when the collection was done initially, it was done in a way that says, this is being collected for Purim, but if there's excess funds, we reserve the rights to use it for other tzedakah initiatives, then that is permitted. So the Gemara says, so, Divrei Rabbi Yaakov. Imkein hisna b'mavet an she'ir. Divrei Rabbi Yaakov, Shar Mishun Rabbi Meir. Fine. Rabbi Shmuel says, well, it's the top of Kuf Zayin 107a, Mekel. So Rabbi Shmuel is Mekel. Rabbi Shmuel says that halacha l'maisa, again, even though you collected it for Purim, if you want to afterwards repurpose it for other tzedakah needs, obviously you're going to say you can't misappropriate it and use it for some non-tzedakah need, but after, again, it's already been collected, halacha l'maisa, you could repurpose it for another tzedakah need. Take a look at Rashi. Top Rashi 107a Mekel. Afagav de Mishani, Lo savar de makbid inish midi de lo chaserba. So we'll say, Rabbi Shmuel says essentially like this. Listen, we'll say in general, when I give tzedakah, I'm giving tzedakah. So the fact that now, okay, I gave it for Purim and it's going to be used, I don't know, for clothing, for aniyim, for something else. I'm fine. I gave tzedakah. That's fine. We'll see. What do you see from here? What you see from here is Rabbi Shmuel is okay with people making a change. In other words, in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel essentially was change averse, right? Why is he change averse? I gave my word that I'm planting wheat. Barley takes up less nutrients. It doesn't matter. You gave your word, that's it, stick to your word. Yet here we see that Rabbi Shmuel says you can go ahead and change things, right? I said I'm collecting from Matanos Levionim, right? And now again I decide afterwards we're going to change it to, the orphans clothing fund. I could do it. So which one is it? Rabbi Shmuel says you can change or you can change. Rabbi Yitam Rabbi Shmuel do Amar Mar Hayman denechale the tiswar ara lezira shasa chiti v'shasa sa'ari. Shasa shesi v'shesi arev. So Rabbi said, this is interesting. Rabbi Shmuel says this is a different issue. This is actually not about keeping your word. Rather, what is it about? It's about the long-term health of the field. Because Rabbi Shmuel said as follows. He said, if somebody literally wants to go ahead and totally deplete his field. Now, Alex, in other words, if you want to ruin your field, here's what you do. Lizra shasa chiti v'shasa sa'ari. 1 year plant wheat and 1 year plant barley. Shasa shasi v'shasa arev. 1 year plant, horizontally and 1 year vertically. I was going to say, so apparently, that to deviate in crops year to year is actually detrimental to the soil. Bless you, detrimental to the soil. Sefer will say that's what's happening over here. Rabbi Shmuel says this is not an issue about keeping your word. This is an issue that if I contract with Ruvain to go ahead and plant, and let's say plant wheat, and now I decide, I want to plant barley. Even though technically speaking, barley takes less nutrients from the soil, it's not healthy to the soil to go back and forth. In other words, I don't know, I might not even know what Reuven planted there next year, nor do I know what Reuven's plants are for the following year. So now again, I agreed to plant wheat. Now I decide to switch to barley. Well, what if last year Reuven planted wheat, and next year he plans on planting wheat? If you start going wheat, barley, wheat, that's bad for the soil. That's Rabbi Shmuel's issue over here. V'lo amran ela delo kariv v'tani. Aval kariv v'tani less lamba. Now I will say this is only if when is it detrimental to the field to go ahead and plant different crops every single year? That's only if after you planted the crop you didn't plow right after the harvest and plow again before the sowing. Apparently, if you do repeated acts of plowing, in other words, let's say plant barley, harvest it, then plow, then do a second plowing and plant wheat, apparently that's fine. I guess because with the plowing, maybe it removes any of the additional remnants, and therefore there's no fear. Okay, but in any event, that's what's happening over there. So everybody will say, bottom line, Machlokes Tanakama and Rabbi Shmuel Tanakama holds that I'm allowed, as a farmer, as the farmer, and the person, the lesser, I am lesser, or lisi? Lesser, right? As the lesser, I am allowed to switch as long as what I'm switching to takes less nutrients from the soil. Rabbi Shmuel says you can't switch. Whatever you contracted to do is what you need to do. What are we afraid of over here? Field depletion, right? Or soil erosion. That's what we're afraid of. We'll say, you also see something interesting. A lot of metaphorical connections between fields and man. Ki Adam eitz hasoda, right? Man is like a tree of the field. Man is very much connected, right? Adam is from Adama. I'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that a field is strongest when you're constantly planting the same crop, right? When you go ahead and you jump from crop to crop, from item to item, it erodes the quality of the field. I'll say, so sometimes one of the greatest challenges in life is planting something and really remaining committed to it. Because what ends up happening is sometimes, you plant something, you start something, it loses that new crop excitement, and you jump on to the next thing. And I'll say, what kind of happens? If you look at the field of my life, there's like a lot of patches. Right? There's a patch of this, and a patch of this, and a patch of that, and a patch of this. And like if you got like the aerial view of it, it would look very disjointed. Sometimes the best thing to do with the field of your personalistic development is choose a crop. It doesn't have to just be one crop. It could be a couple of crops, but choose what you're planting. Decide how you're planting it and stick to it. Don't jump thing to thing to thing to thing. Decide what you're going to sink your teeth into in life. And this is true both in your ruchnius and even in your material development. Whatever you're going to do, devote yourself to it, nurture the crop, see it through to fruition, and avoid the temptation to jump thing to thing to thing, because when you do that, you deplete your personalistic soil. Incredible. Musar and everything. Let's go back there. Tvua lo yizra and a kitness. So remember again, the Mishnah said that if I agreed to plant grain, I shouldn't switch to legumes, to kitnis. So again, because the idea over here, according to Tanakama, is that apparently kitnis takes up more of the nutrients of the soil. So masni lo Rav Yehuda l'Ravin, tvua lo yizra any kitnis. So the Gemara says if you agree to do tvua, can't do kitnis. Amar levahanan tanan tvua. Sorry, so he said tvua yizra any kitnis. That if I agree to go ahead and plant tvua, I can switch to kitnis. Amar levahanan tanan tvua lo yizra any kitnis. But our Mishnah says you can't make that switch. Amar le lo kashya halan v'haluhu. So this is fascinating. Apparently, in this respect, there's a difference between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel. What's the difference? Take a look at Rashi. Halan v'haluhu. Rashi says, Masnisin b'Eretz Yisrael kai shimakom harim v'ikal amechash l'kichsha da'ara. So apparently in Eretz Yisrael, which is much more hilly terrain, so there's a concern of soil depletion or nutrients depletion if you switch from grain to kitnis. However, listen to this. However, anan hashta bebaval kaiminon shimitzula utavua bebitzi hamayim v'lekel amechash lekichsha da'ara hilchach meshana b'chamakum shirtza mekitnis letvua mitula kitnis. So this is very interesting. In Baval apparently, it was common because Baval was lower on the water table, and as such, again, it was common for the fields to be overrun by the local rivers, which was actually healthy because what it did is it replenished the nutrients in the soil. So because of that, in Bavel, there was no concern of switching from kitnis to tvua to kitnis. Apparently in Bavel, there's no soil depletion. Right? There's no nutrient depletion, and because the water is constantly replenishing, therefore you could go ahead and make the switch. Okay, beautiful. Amar Rav Yehuda Rabin bar Rav Nachman. Rabin Achi, so listen to this. So Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabin bar Rav Nachman, Rabin, my brother. Now both say Rabin was not his actual brother, right? But rather, again, both say this is it. By the way, even in modern day Hebrew, this is like Achi, my brother. This is the way Jews should always talk to each other, right? My brother, Hani Tachli Debei Kisna Ein Ba Mishum Gezel. This tichla both say is cress, right? This cress that grows amongst the flax. There is no gezel if someone comes in and picks it. In other words, if Reuven has a flax field, and I come in and I pick the cress growing from between the flax, it is no gezel, there's no theft. We'll say, why is that? Because actually it's beneficial. The cress that grows there is detrimental to the flax, and therefore when I come into Reuven's field and I pick the flax, I'm actually doing Reuven a favor. The Gemara says, Omdos al gvul yeshem gezel, but if the cress is standing on the border of the field, then it is subject to theft. Why? Because on the border of the field, it's not harming the flax, and therefore that really belongs to Reuven. I can't come and pick it. But once the cress has become hardened already, so ultimately again, Yesh Mishum Gezel. Then halacha l'maisa again, it is subject to Gezel, because at that point in time, once the cress has become hardened, whatever damage it did to the flax is already done, and therefore again, there's no benefit anymore of me coming and picking the plant. My taima, my da'afsid afsid. They're both saying incredible. What's been lost has been lost. Sometimes in life you have to cut your losses, right? Sometimes again, losses are irreversible. That's it, and therefore again you can't pick the cress anymore. By the way, I'll just mention in the previous Mishnah, just because I didn't finish this out, the Rambam paskins like the Tanakama, and therefore Allah Chalamaysa, in the case of chachirus, if I go ahead and I lease the field to plant one thing, I can switch to something else, provided that the second item draws less nutrients from the soil. That's the halacha. But I can't switch to something that draws more nutrients from the soil. Okay, fine, back to this. Amar Rav Yehuda Rabin bar Rav Nachman. So this is a bunch of conversations between Rav Yehuda and Rabin. So the Gemara says, Rabin Achi, Rabin my brother, Hani Dili Dilach. I'm sorry. So Achi, Hani Dili Dilach, V'Dilach Dili. Nog b'nei Mitzra, ilan anota lekanu lekan, v'anota lekanu lekan. So let's listen to this. So let's analyze this. So literally translated, Hani dili dilach, v'dilach dili. The things that are mine are yours, and the things that are yours are mine. So what exactly does this refer to? So this refers to Nog b'nei Mitzra. This refers to a tree that is planted on the border. So remember again, we've seen this before, that the way they used to create borders between fields was essentially a mound of dirt. a mound of dirt. So what they're discussing over here is, what if you have a tree that is living on the mound of dirt, the border between two fields? Between two fields. So what's talach? Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbin, sometimes a tree like this belongs to both parties. So the Gemara says, listen to this. Ilan anota lakan lakan, anota lakan lakan. The itmar. Ilan ha'omed ala metzar. So I'll say, if you have a tree that literally again is on the border between two fields, between two fields. Good. So first of all, I'm sorry. Let me just go ahead for just a second. So just go back. He says, "Nog b'nei mitzra ilan anota lakanu lakan, v'anota lakanu lakan." Rashi points out there, what does it mean that the tree literally faces this direction and that direction? Rashi points out over here that it is the roots. The roots extend, literally translated, hanota lakan lakan, v'anota lakan lakan. So here's the case. Imagine for a moment, Reuven and Shimon have adjoining fields. There's the border, the mound of earth in between the two fields, and there's a tree situated on that mound. So who owns the tree? Who owns the tree? So now comes along Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends where the roots are extending. If the roots extend into Reuven's field, it's Reuven's tree. If the roots extend into Shimon's field, it's Shimon's tree. So that's what it is. Hanota lakan lakan. If the roots extend into this field that belongs to this person, l'kvanota lakan lakan. If the roots extend into a different field that belongs to the other person, the itmar, because we learned the itmar ilan ha'omed ala metzar. If you have a tree that stands on the border, Amarav hanota lakan lakan, vanota lakan lakan. So Rav says wherever the roots extend, that's who owns the tree. I'll say interesting, right? So wherever the roots are, that's at the end of the day where ownership of the tree extends. I just want to point out how incredible that is, because remember, you could have a tree whose roots extend in one direction, but yet what? The branches are somewhere else. Where am I situated, right? Where am I situated? Where do I live, right? Where do I live? I live where my roots are. And I will say, by the way, what a profound yesod also, again, for our ruchnius as well. Sometimes in life, the branches of my personalistic tree are extending in all the wrong places. But the good news is I will say that as long as in my heart I am rooted with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I am rooted in the right place, that's where I belong. I exist where my roots are, even if my branches are somewhere else. That's Rav. Shmuel says Cholkin. Shmuel says, no, we go ahead and we divide up the tree. In this kind of case, where the tree itself is straddling the border, we don't look at where the roots go, rather, again, we look at where it's situated, and therefore, Allah Lamaisa, we go and we split it between Reuven and Shimon. So we'll say, let's analyze this. Meisvei, Ilana Omid ala Metzia Yachloku. So the Brisa seems to support Shmuel that if you have a tree that is standing on the border, you split the produce between the two adjoining fields. Tiyuf to the Rav. Ultimately, again, Rav is refuted. Tirgama Shmuel libu the Rav. So we'll say, this is interesting. So Shmuel explains this even according to Rav. B'memale kol ha-metzar kulo. Ultimately, and I will say, no, what's the case? The case is where this tree in question has roots extending into both fields. Okay, so now I will say, so if you have roots, so now again, if the tree itself sits on the raised border and the roots extend into both of the adjoining fields, then it makes sense, Yachloku, that you split it. So what's the Chiddush? The Gemara says, so what's the Chiddush? Now we'll say, now what's the Chiddush? The Chiddush is, here's the case. You have Reuven and Shimon have adjoining fields, you have a tree on the border, and the roots extend into both of the fields, but yet the fruit primarily extends into Reuven's field. It's Reuven's field. So the Gemara says, Va'akati ma'ile memra. So still, again, what's the Chiddush? So Mante, what do you have to Amarle, plog haki. So we'll say, so Reuven's going to say like this, yes, of course, we should split the fruit. But how should we split the fruit? In accordance with how the branches extend. Right? I'll get the branches that extend into my rishus. You get the branches that extend into your rishus, which obviously is an unequal distribution. So the Gemara says, Ploghachi, Kamashmalan Damarle, my chazis the Palgisachi, Palgisachi. Why should you extend it along the border of the field? Go ahead and extend, go ahead and split it, in a perpendicular fashion instead. The idea is we do an equitable distribution. So in a case where Allah Chalamaisa, the tree itself is on the border, And so generally we'll say wherever the roots extend, that's the owner of the tree. If the roots extend into both fields, then we don't say you get the branches on your side, you get the branches on your side. Rather, we do an equitable distribution of the fruits of the tree. Beautiful. Amar Rav Yehuda Rabin Bar Rav Nachman. So we said to Rabin, Rabin my brother, Lo tizbin ara dismicha lamasa. So this is interesting. So now we're going to get into some really beautiful Gemara. So Yehuda says, Rabbi, my brother, whatever you do, don't buy a field close to the city. Don't buy a field close to the city. Then we'll say, now what's the logic? Rashi says, Lo tizbun, lo tiknes adas mucha le'ir, she'ayin b'nei adam sholetes batamid. He was concerned about ayin hara. Ayin hara. Rabbi will say, now remember again, we spoke about ayin hara many times. What is ayin hara? Ayin hara means if I allow my brachos to cause pain for someone else, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I didn't give you brachos to cause pain, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes it away. So for example, if I have something in life that's beautiful, but yet the way either I use it or the way I conduct myself with it highlights to other people who don't have it the absence or the loss that they possess, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if your bracha is causing someone else pain, I'm taking it away from you. So Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabin, whatever you do, don't get a field close to the city, right? Why not? Why not? Because halacha l'maaseh, people are going to see. They're going to see your parnasa, they're going to see your produce, and it has the ability to potentially cause pain to someone. So the Gemara says, Am Rabbi Ava, Am Rav Huna, Am Rav, Asher Lili Adam, Sheyamor Al Sadeh Chavero, Bishar Shomeles Bekum Esei. So this is incredible halacha. You're not really supposed to stand in someone else's field when their field is filled with standing grain. What's the logic? The logic is because it may cause me to look negatively upon, if I'm standing in Reuven's field, and Reuven's field, Baruch Hashem, is filled with standing grain, I'm going to say, Reuven has so much, and I have so little. Suddenly, again, Reuven's possession is going to cause me pain, and that's where ayin hara comes in. So therefore, I will say, Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi, better to have your fields out of the middle of nowhere, so that no one sees it. No one sees it. So is this true? Both is beautiful Gemara. Vaha ashkechinu Rabbi Abba letalmidei de Rav. Yet Rabbi Abba found the talmidim of Rav. Amar when he said to them, "My Amar Rav b'hanikra." So Rabbi Abba said to the talmidim of Rav, "What did Rav say about the following psukim? Baruch atah ba'ir ubaruch atah b'sadeh." So we'll say the pasuk says, Parashas Bichu Kosai, right? We just read this in the Chumash Vayikra. You are blessed in the city. And no, I'm sorry. This is from the Brachos Chosim Devarim. Sorry. Baruch atah ba'ir, baruch atah b'sadeh. You'll be blessed in the city and you'll be blessed in the fields. What does that mean? Baruch atah b'vo'echa, baruch atah b'seisecha. You'll be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. Va'amrulei, hachi amarav. Here we go. Baruch atah ba'ir. What does it mean you'll be blessed in the city? Shehei beischa samoch lebeis haknesses. I'll say, what does it mean ultimately again to be blessed in the city? You should live next to a shul. You should live next to a shul. Right? Your home should be next to a shul. Okay? Baruch atah b'sadeh. You should be blessed in the field. What is that? Shehei nechasecha krovim le'ir. That your fields should be close to the city. In other words, I will say, in other words, meaning what? You should have a short commute to work, right? You shouldn't have to commute a long commute. You should have your fields close by. Baruch atah b'vo'echa. You should be blessed when you come home. Shelo timatzei ishtecha safek nida b'shas bi'ascha min haderech. That when a person comes home from a journey, he shouldn't find that his wife is a safek nida. Maybe she's a nida, maybe she's not a nida, and therefore intimacy would be prohibited. That a person should come home from a long journey and find his wife in a permissible state. Baruch atah b'tzeisecha. So I'll say, what does it mean? You should be blessed when you leave. That your offspring should be like you. I will say this is how Rav interpreted all these sukhi. I will say, so the first three make a lot of sense, right? That ultimately, again, Baruch atah ba'ir, you should live next to a shul, right? Baruch atah b'sadeh, your field should be close by. Baruch atah b'vo'echa, when you come home from a journey, you should have the ability to be intimate with your wife. Baruch atah b'tzeisecha, that your children should be like you. Let's say, that is a tremendous responsibility, right? That my children should be like me. My children should be like me presupposes that what? That I'm happy with me. That I'm happy with me. See, I will say, Chash Baruch Hu says, I should get myself to a level where I will be proud if my children are like me. But that requires me to work on myself a lot to make sure that I am on the level that, again, I'm emulating the proper lifestyle, the proper derech, and the proper mahalich for my kids. Let's say sometimes it's a scary question. If my kids were to turn out just like me, how would I feel about that? How would I feel about that? Personally, I hope my kids don't turn out like me. I hope my kids are far surpass anything. And again, we all know our own shortcomings. We all know our own averos. We all know our own idiosyncrasies. And let's say, but that's the goal. The goal is that I should want my children to say, I want to be just like dad. I want to be just like my parent, but I have to raise myself to the level where if they say that, I will be comfortable with that statement. Gemara goes weiter. Va'amar lehu Rabbi Yochanan. So Gemara says, Va'amar lehu Rabbi Yochanan. Lo amar achzosai. Sefer Abosai. The point over here is, this contradicts what we just said before. Because what did Rabbi Huda say to Rabbi? Rabbi Huda said to Rabbi, make sure that your fields are out in the middle of nowhere. Right? They should be far away. Why? Because halacha l'maisa, you don't want people seeing your field. Here, Rav said the biggest bracha is to have your fields close by. This is not what Rav said, right? This is not what Rav said actually at all. Sorry. And again, Rabbi Abba responded, Rabbi Yochanan had a different interpretation. I will say, this is so beautiful. What did he say? Ella, Baruch atah ba'ir. What does it mean you should be blessed in the city? I will say, beautiful Gemara. You should have a bathroom nearby. Indoor plumbing, right? We'll say you should be zochet to have a bathroom close by. So beautiful. Aval, Beisak Neses lo. We'll say, listen to this. But there's not a bracha on having a shul close by. Why is there no bracha on having a shul close by? Rabbi Yochanan Tamei Damar Schar Psios Yesh. So it's beautiful. Why? Because the further you live from shul, the more schar halicha, the more reward you get for making the longer walk. The longer the journey, the more you get. So I'll say, interesting, right? That again, the concept that there is a certain, when you give up convenience, right? And you walk to shul and you make the trip for a little bit, there's a schad, there's a reward in that, because again, which makes sense, I'm putting effort into my spiritual. There's a lot to say about this. So I'll say this is why in general, the concept of just like neighborhood minyanim and things like that. Again, we spoke about this before. There's a concept, first of all, just in general, coming to shul and davening in a Beis HaKnesses. But there's also something to say about, it's not about making it convenient. Right? It's actually not, Ruchnius in general is not about making it convenient. Ruchnius is about making it great and making it special. So give up the convenience. No, don't daven in someone's house, right? Don't daven in a basement. Don't daven in this. Daven in a shul. But the shul is so much further. Yeah. Not in Baltimore, actually, plenty of shuls, right? That's the point. That's the point. There's a schar in the amelos. There's a reward in the effort. There's something to be said for the extra steps, for giving up the convenience and coming together with the klal. That's ultimately, again, where bracha is found. Okay, let's go back there. Baruch atah basada. So it should be blessed in the field. So the shehei nechasecha mishulashin. This is very interesting. That your property again, literally again, we'll say should be split into three: shlish b'tvuah, shlish b'zeisim, and shlish b'gefanim. 1/3 in wheat, 1/3 in olives, and 1/3 in vines. In other words, we'll say that. In other words, financially diversify, right? This way, again, if one type of crop is stricken, you still have the ability to go ahead and. Right? We'll say this is so beautiful. You should be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. We'll say ultimately again, your departure from this world should be just like your entry into this world. What does this mean? Just like your entry into this world is without sin, so too you should leave this world without sin as well. Now we'll say, what a profound Gemara. Just like you enter into this world sinless, you should exit this world sinless. Now we'll say, you see this Gemara, you say it's beautiful. Only one problem. Impossible. How could a person leave this world without averos? I will say it is possible. One word, tshuva. Tshuva. See, I will say, what it's saying is like this. It doesn't mean that I leave this world without having committed sins. I will say, but the power of tshuva, and I will say, this is incredibly important. Because remember again, it's Isru Chag on Shavuos. What happens on Isru Chag on Shavuos? We begin to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. Let's say, remember, the next Yamim Tovim are the Yamim Noraim. It's incredible to think about, right? The next step on our spiritual train, because there's not going to be a Tisha B'Av this year. Mashiach's going to be here before Tisha B'Av, Emir Hashem. So the next step on our spiritual train is Rosh Hashanah. It's Chodesh Elul. We'll say the season of tshuva is upon us. 'Tis the season, as they say. The season of tshuva is upon us. This is now the avoda going forward. We'll say, how incredible is it that on Isru Chag of Shavuos, we have a Gemara about tshuva. It's time to get into our Yomim Noraim mindset. So how do you leave this world without sin? I'm a human being. I did so many averos. The answer is tshuva. The power of tshuva, we're not going to get into it now, but especially different forms of tshuva, especially the highest form of tshuva, which is tshuva me'ava, tshuva motivated out of a love, out of a desire to just be better and be closer. That tshuva is so powerful that it turns your averos into mitzvos. So I could leave this world the same way that I came in, as long as I tap into the power of tshuva. Incredible. Amud Beis. So lo kasha. So I'll say. So again, once again, what do I do with all this? Because halacha l'maisa again we just saw. So Rabbi Yehuda was saying to Rabin, make sure your field is out in the middle of nowhere. But yet here we saw that the drushos of Rav said, no, it's a big bracha to have your fields nearby. Sadarakas lo kasha hadam hadir leishura beriska hadlo mahadir leishura beriska. You could have your fields close to the city, but what do you need to do? Build high walls. Build high walls. This way no one can see in. I was going to say, the issue is not really the proximity of the field. What's the issue? I don't want people standing in my field looking in, because again, that creates a certain sense of ayin hara, which I will say is so incredibly important about sometimes the need for modesty, the need for tznius in our material possessions. The idea being, you have wealth and a person wants to enjoy the material world, go for it. Baruch Hashem, put it here for us to enjoy responsibly. Sometimes just it's a good idea to be a little bit more modest about how I go ahead and broadcast that out. That there may be a certain element of modesty that a person should bring to the table with how they go ahead and broadcast their wealth, because if chas v'shalom, what I have becomes a source of pain for someone else, that chas v'shalom opens door for ayin hara. Incredible. The Gemara says, "V'heisya Hashem kol choli." So we'll say, some beautiful other Agada Gemaras. Beautiful. Listen to this. Kadosh Baruch Hu remove from you all illness. So we'll say, what does that refer to? Amar Rav zu ayin. Rav says, illness in this case means ayin hara. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll remove from you any of the detrimental effects of ayin hara. Rav letamei. So we'll say, this is get ready for this Gemara. Rav goes into his reasoning. The Rav salki lebei kivri. Let's say Rav went to the cemetery. Avid my David. Rabbi said this is the strangest thing in the world. He did what he did. What does it mean he did what he did? Look at Rashi. Avid my David. Yodea haya lilchosh ala kvaros ulahavina kol kever v'kever be'iza misa meis meis bezmano im ba'ayin hara. So ayin ra. So listen to this. So apparently Rav knew how to tap into how it is that people died. Right? He was able to go to a kever, and he was able to discern exactly how it was or why it was that a person died. Did a person die of natural causes? Did a person die of ayin hara? And I was going to say, sometimes what the Gemara is pointing out over here is the power of ayin hara is such that if sometimes, again, my brachas cause someone else so much pain, it could even chas v'shalom result in a person's premature death. That's how serious ayin hara is. So Rav was able to see who died of ayin hara, who died of natural causes, and what did he say? The Gemara says, Amar tishin v'tisha ba'ayin ra ve'echa b'derech eretz. So Rav said 99 out of 100 people die because of ayin hara, and 1 out of 100 dies out of normal reasons. So we'll say, so apparently, now what does that mean? So apparently what Rav was saying was that for many people, ayin hara unfortunately plays a role in their demise. That this concept of ayin hara, that sometimes we're not careful enough to just use our brachos appropriately, or to not flaunt our brachos in a way which cause other people pain. And sometimes, again, that results in misfortune for the individual without even realizing it. I will say the Gemara is just trying to sensitize us to the idea that we just have to be careful how we go ahead and speak about our brachos, how we broadcast our brachos, because just know, you never know the person next to you, and what you may take for granted as a bracha you have in life, someone else may not have. And the way you talk about it, or the the way you broadcast it may inadvertently cause someone else pain. And if my bracha causes someone else pain, Chashon Baruch Hu says that's not why I gave you bracha. It's incredible. Shmuel says, no, Zeh HaRuach. That refers to Ruach. We'll say Ruach, literally Rashi says, actually let's finish. So the time Damar Shmuel, Hakol Beruach. Shmuel says everything is about the wind. Rashi says, Hakol Beruach, Kol HaChaloim V'Totzaos Misa Al Neshivas HaRuach Boin, Hakol Lefi Hashav V'Adam Yesh Ishcha Adam Shiruach Ploni Kashalo, Ubisha Ploni. So we'll say, so apparently Shmuel says all sickness and all illness comes because of the winds. So Chashon Baruch Hu says, I'll remove from you all illness. It's referring to negative winds. L'shmuel, the Gemara says, is that true? Shmuel says, what about people? Winds kill everybody? What about someone who's executed by the king? Right? They're executed by sword. So that's not the wind. To which the Gemara says something very interesting. The Gemara says, Hanach nami ilav dzeka avile sama v'chayin. Shmuel says, no, even in that case, even if someone was mortally wounded by a sword, were not for the wind, you'd be able to patch a person up with some type of remedy, but once the wind gets into that opening, that's it kills the person. Someone says, Rabbi Chanina Amar Zut Sina. Rabbi Chanina says, no, what's the choli, what's the illness that Chashon Baruch Hu says he's going to remove? It's cold. The cold. Rabbi Chanina says everything is in the hands of Shamayim except for tzinim pachim. Tzinim pachim, Rashi says, is cold winds. Kar hanofeach. Shene'emar tzinim pachim b'derech ikesh shomer nafsho yircham. Remember again, we had this Gemara Maseches Ksuvis. Remember again, back in Ksuvis, we explained that there's a different way to read that Gemara as well. Everything is in the hands of heaven. Chashon controls everything. Chutz mitzinim pachim. I both say tzinim, right? Tzina could be cold. Pachim could also be heat, right? Mipach yakush, right? It also could be heat. So the way to also read that Gemara is everything is in the hands of heaven. Chashon controls everything. What's the only thing Chashon Baruch Hu doesn't control? Tzinim pachim. Whether or not you're hot or cold, are you going to be inspired? Or are you going to be lackadaisical? Are you going to go ahead and be hot? Are you going to be cold? What is going to be your approach? Chashon Baruch Hu controls everything. How much money are you going to make? That's up to Hashem. You're going to have children? That's up to Hashem. A shidduch? That's up to Hashem. Tall, short, everything up to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The one thing that Rebbe Shalom doesn't control is, are you going to be hot or cold about your Yiddishkeit? Are you going to be passionate and on fire, or are you going to just simply be frozen and mediocre? That is the decision I make in life. The Gemara goes weiter. This refers to soa in this context actually refers to things that emanate or flow from the body. So the Gemara says, Damar Mar, so the things, right, if a person has a runny nose or runny ears, Ruban Kasha, if it runs a lot, then ultimately that's not good for your health. Umi utan yafe, but a little bit is good because I guess it excretes anything that's not supposed to be in there. Rabbi Lazar says, so say, remember, all these are just different interpretations. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll take away from you kol choli, all illness. What illness are we referring to? Rabbi Lazar Omer zu mara. This refers to bile. Bile. So the Metzia that supports this. Machala zu mara. V'lama nikra. So we'll say what's machala? It refers to the bile. V'lama nikra shma machala. So why is bile called machala? She machala kol gufo shaladam. Because we'll say apparently again too much bile is the source of all illness in the body. Davar acher. Machala sheshmonim ushlosha chaloim teluyin b'mara. There are 83 illnesses. I will say now it happens to be that the numerical value, right, is 83. So right, machala so the Gemara says sheshmonim ushlosha chaloim teluyin b'mara. There are 83 illnesses that come from too much bile. The kulan pas shachris b'melach, the keton shamayim mevat lasan. And I will say all of these things regarding bile, any of the illnesses can be cured with a relatively easy home remedy, which is breakfast, a good breakfast, right? Bread in the morning with a container of water. Right? Pashachris, eating bread in the morning, eating bread for breakfast with a container of water, you're going to be good to go. What says incredible. Tanra Abana, listen to this Gemara. Yud Gimel Dvarim Nero Pashachris. There are 13 things that were said about Pashachris. We'll say Pashachris literally means breakfast, eating bread in the morning. So we'll say, what are the 13 beneficial things that are said about Pashachris? Matzelas Menachama Minatzina. It saves you ultimately again from overheating or from chills. Umina Zikin, Umina Mazikin. saves you ultimately again from winds, detrimental effects of winds, and any other harmful effects. Umachkimas pasi, it makes you smart. Breakfast makes you smart. Now, what's the chap that breakfast makes you smart? Machimas pasi. Shadaitum yusheves alav lefish enu mitztar beinui. Chazal were the first to understand the detrimental effect of being hangry. Hangry, right? When you're hangry, right? When you're hangry, so ultimately, again, everything is messed up. Someone says, if you have good breakfast, you're not hangry, so ultimately you're smarter. You're able to think clear. V'zocha b'din, you're able to be successful in judgment. Lilmod Torah, you can learn well. Ulalamed, you can teach. Once again, none of this is esoteric. This is all about when you're not hangry, you're able to accomplish a lot more in life, right? You have a good breakfast, you're settled, right? Your equilibrium is there, you can do a lot. Udvar nishmaim, people listen to you, because no one likes to talk to somebody who's hangry, right? V'tamudam iskayim biyado, and what you learn, you're able to remember. Ve'ein b'sara ma'ala hevel, right? And ultimately, again, your flesh doesn't overheat. So we'll say this is interesting. And a person will be with his wife and he will not desire anyone else. Rashi points out over here, like this, that if a man has a lot of taiva, has a lot of desire, so before he goes out for the day, he's nervous that he's going to see other women and desire them. So he desires, therefore, to be with his wife before he leaves the house. This way he can satisfy his desire, will have a less of a desire for other women. So if he eats breakfast, he's able to think things through a little bit more, and again, make a good plan of action together with his wife. Which sets his day on a different kind of trajectory. You both say, all of this is, if you have breakfast, your mind is a little bit more settled. When your mind is a little bit more settled, you're better equipped to make a proper plan for the day. Breakfast also goes ahead and kills the kina, apparently again the worms that are intestinal worms. I want to say, others say the power of breakfast removes jealousy and instead replaces it with love. I want to say this is like a lot of power for breakfast, right? So again, I want to say the idea over here is, what's the yesod of this? The yesod of this is that at the end of the day, when a person eats breakfast, and again their mind is settled, it just opens the door for a variety of different forms of accomplishment. L'Rava bar Mari, Mina Hamil Armi Inshi. What is the source of this thing that people say? Shisin Rati Rat Filamati Lagavra Demitzafra Karach. So listen to this. There's an expression that says that you could run 60 times, literally again, you could run 60 times faster, but you won't catch up with the person who ate breakfast, right? The idea being that a person who ate breakfast, again, has first of all, there's a certain level of almost what Chazal see of intellectual or cerebral equilibrium that you're able to better plan out your day, you're able to better think, and there's a certain sense of physical vitality. The Gemara says, "So wake up early and eat breakfast in the morning. In the summertime, in order to avoid the detrimental effects of heat, and in the winter time because of the detrimental effects of the cold." Ultimately, again, the heat, right? The heat and the sun, or the winds and the sun, will not impact you. Why? Because ultimately you didn't starve yourself, you didn't deprive yourself of food, you didn't deprive yourself of water. You say it from here, I say it from there. You will serve Hashem, and He will bless your bread and your water. You will serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This refers to Shema Tefillah. He will bless your bread. This refers ultimately again to bread with salt, breakfast, and a jug of water. Mikan ve'elach v'asirosi machala mikerbecha. Ultimately, again, from that point forward, ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will remove illness from within your midst. A little bit of breakfast, Chazal tells us, ultimately goes a long way. I'll stop over here for today. What a Gemara, what an Isru Chag, what an Erev Shabbos. I'll say, you're hungry now, right? I'll say, Shkoyach. Thank you again. It was delicious. Delicious. Thank you. All right, Chevron Zuma, good Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos, good Erev Shabbos. Oh, I think everyone here is from Eretz Yisrael. Wow. Wow. Such a schos. Except Anj on the bottom. Wow, this is a real, maybe this is a Simna Milsa. Yeah, pack my bags.